turn it over to our CEO, Chris Pace.
Hey guys, appreciate you guys all taking the time out of your busy schedules to join. This is one of my first virtual presentations for the year. I'm kidding. That's all I've been doing is virtual. It's a lot different. It's almost like talking in your closet. But as you guys, there's a lot of friends that I noticed that was on the registration list. So those of you guys that know me know I hate to PowerPoint to death. So I encourage questions. Sarah will be monitoring the chat channel. So if you guys have any questions that pop up throughout the presentation, please ask, and we can unmute and kind of engage in a conversation. I think this is, hope is to really, talk to you about cloud and really maximizing that advantage in the cloud. And we all know that the cloud adoption is moving fast, extremely fast right now. And it's important that as you're moving to the cloud, you understand all the capabilities to really be able to maximize the potential that it's capable of bringing to you. So Sarah, just correct me, you can see the presentation, right?
Yes,
okay.
I can.
All right, so real quick from an agenda standpoint, 4 things that we're going to talk about. Why are businesses moving to the cloud? And I think, all of you guys that are on this call, whether you're IT director, CIO, business owner, or an IT administrator, we all have different reasons that we're moving to the cloud, but we'll talk about why we're moving to the cloud. And it's very relevant today in today's times with us being a pandemic, with us moving to hybrid work environments. How do you determine, the other thing we'll talk about is how do you determine if your organization is cloud ready? So not just looking at the organization as a whole, but how do you look at your workloads? How do you look at how users are accessing application and accessing tools? How do you know if that's ready? And then once you move to the cloud, how do you determine, are you protected in the cloud? So how do you look at everything from the entire environment from start to finish to be able to determine, is your organization actually ready for the cloud? Another thing we'll talk about is discover the benefits with Microsoft Azure delivered through a center partnership. One of the things that a lot of analysts are out there talking about today is that they believe that Microsoft is only going to start working through partners like Center. So one of the things that I really want to show you through this presentation is I want to show you what Center adds, because moving to the cloud is a great thing. There's a ton of advantages when moving to the cloud, but there's also cons that we have to know how to manage, and we have to, turn those negatives into a positive. And then what should you expect from your Azure partner to be successful within the cloud? So we'll talk about those 4 things. If you guys, why do we move to the cloud? Many different reasons that organizations are moving to the cloud. And like I said, depending on what seat you're sitting in, it will be different all over the board. So from a business owner standpoint, some of the reasons that we want to move to the cloud is cost. We talked to, there's a lot of marketing material out there. There's a lot of commercials that, essentially say, hey, you'll move to the cloud and you'll save money. Really, what is that doing? What are we trying to do when it comes to that, right? It's eliminating the expense of buying hardware and software. And more importantly, really eliminating buying that hardware and software for the next 3 years. IT is moving faster than we've ever seen it move before. We don't know what tomorrow is going to look like, let alone what 3 years is going to look like. So cost is a big reason that we're moving to the cloud, and it's really not having to buy up front for the next 3 to 5 years from a technology perspective. Performance, a lot of people are wanting to move to the cloud to really take advantage of the performance and the ability to be able to take advantage of the performance on demand. So at times, different times during the day, you may be running a VDI environment and everybody comes in at 9 o'clock in the morning. You want to be able to take advantage of that performance that it offers from 9 to 10 when everybody logs in. The cloud gives you some of that advantage from a performance standpoint. If you look at, some of the things that's happening from a pandemic standpoint, Zoom, for example, let's talk about Zoom. Zoom is running in the cloud when all of the students have to log in at 9 o'clock because all these students are going to virtual learning. How do you get that performance when you've got 30,000 students in a particular county that's logging in at 9 o'clock in the morning? Scale's a big deal too, right? We're receiving the right amount of IT resources now when you need it. And again, like I said, from a cost standpoint, you don't, with IT moving and with businesses and organizations adopting more and more technology tools within their business, scale becomes critical for them, and they don't know when they need it. So the ability to be able to scale your infrastructure, deliver those tools to the business, and leverage the scale that the cloud provides is another big reason why we're switching to the cloud. Reliability is another one. How do you provide reliability? And especially in today's pandemic, a lot of us have been able to see this, but how do we provide not just disaster recovery, but how do we provide business continuity? How do we make sure that the business is running in the event of a disaster? And some of the tools that are being built for the cloud really provide that reliability. Another big one that I think is extremely relevant especially from an IT administrator standpoint, is, like I said, businesses are wanting to leverage more and more tools. So more and more tools, the implementation of tools is being put on IT departments more and more today. It's the flexibility. So how can I leverage the cloud to be able to deliver those tools to the business? The cloud provides that flexibility from a performance standpoint, from a scale standpoint, from a compute standpoint, storage. It really gives a lot of the IT administrators flexibility. And if you look at the typical journey to the cloud, you're going to really look at 4 different areas. And if you guys go to a lot of partners in the industry and sit down and say, I want to move to the cloud, they're really going to sit down and they're going to say, okay, we got to do 4 things. We got to discover, right? We have to discover what it is, what our goals are. We have to discover what is it that we're moving to the cloud, what can move to the cloud, what can't move to the cloud. We have to design an environment from the cloud. So we have to look at all this data, look at our IT workloads, and design what does that cloud environment look like. Then we have to put a strategy together, and then we migrate. With going back to a lot of the things that I was saying, is that IT is moving faster than it's ever been. A lot of what's happening in environments today is we're just migrating. So we actually don't do the discovery, design, and strategy phase. We're just having to migrate. But I want you guys to remember this slide, because through the end of this presentation, I want to show you what Center's journey to the cloud and how it looks different and how it really maximizes your advantages, really gives you the ability to maximize the advantages that the cloud brings you. And it's very different. It's not just looking at these 4 separate areas. It's taking it a whole lot further. From a hold on real quick. It's right here. Hold on real quick. Technical difficulties. Yeah, so this is in notes mode, guys. I know it's in notes mode. Sorry, I've got 3 monitors, part of the virtual challenge, but I'll walk through this again. You guys talking to a cloud partner, this is what they're going to sit down and talk to you about: discovery, design, strategy, and migration. And I want you to remember this slide, and really, because towards the end of this, I want to show you guys what Center's journey to the cloud looks like, and really how it will help you maximize your cloud advantage. So like I said during the beginning of this presentation, I believe, and I think a lot of people, a lot of organizations out there, I think it's critical that if you're going down a path of really leveraging the cloud as part of your IT infrastructure solution, you really need to find a partner that is aligned with you, that understands your business, that really is aligned. Like I said, there's a lot of analysts out there that you feel that Microsoft is only going to start working with partners rather than the ability to be able to go to Microsoft Direct for cloud needs. And so, really, if you guys are looking to migrate to the cloud and looking to start leveraging the cloud as part of your IT infrastructure, I think it's very, very critical today that you find a partner that understands your business, understands what your needs are, your goals, and what direction you're looking to go to be able to maximize that advantage. So from a center perspective, there's really 3 things that you can count on. So if you leverage center from a partner to maximize your advantage in the cloud, there's 3 things that you can constantly count on that we will provide to you. One of those being expertise. And that is a big gap in today. The amount of expertise from a cloud perspective. A lot of the expertise that we have in-house has to do with managing an environment that's going to be on-prem. We'll have our storage, we'll have our VMware, we'll have our networking. There's a million buttons that we've always managed on-prem. And depending on how we configure those million buttons depends on our success. And today, not only is IT getting more tools to implement for the business, we're moving workloads to the cloud and now have a million different buttons that I have to be able to manage. From a time perspective, from dedication, from training, Center is always focused on being able to provide you cloud experts that enable you to be able to take advantage and really set up the environments to best practices. The other thing that we're really focused on is control. We want to, like I said at the beginning, when you move to the cloud, that goes from it becomes a lot of the problems that customers can have by moving to the cloud is cloud sprawl. So if you guys remember back in the VMware days, one of the things that was great about VMware is that we could build a server per application. So we would dedicate an application on every server. And what ended up happening back in those days is we ended up having server sprawl. So we would turn around, and where we had 20 servers before because they were all physical and we had multiple applications on those physical servers, we turn around and we started leveraging VMware, and now we have 100 servers because we have 100 applications and we're going to dedicate one application per server. It got out of sprawl, and when we got our Microsoft licensing bill for that year, it was way out of control. The same thing is happening from a cloud standpoint. When we start leveraging the scale ability in the cloud, the flexibility, the ability to be able to add compute on demand, the problems that customers are having today is there's cloud sprawl. And that moves into the third piece that you can count on from Center is visibility. So a lot of you guys that are leveraging Microsoft Azure today, one of the things that you'll see from an invoicing perspective, you'll see a invoice that comes from Microsoft and it's 80,000 different line items. And I'll show you an example here in a minute on how we deal with that, but how we constantly provide you visibility so that you understand what you're paying for, so that you have the ability to be able to maximize the dollars that you're investing in the cloud and really making sure that that dollar actually works for your business. So 3 things that we focus on and that you can count on for us is expertise, control, and visibility. From an expertise standpoint, like I said, nearly 60% of businesses have difficulty finding cloud experts. It is a whole new world that we have to manage. And not only are we having to manage, cloud, right? There's multiple different public clouds that you have to be able to provide expertise in. So part of Center's, methodology when it comes to cloud is it's a hybrid environment. It's not just a hybrid environment from an on-prem standpoint. It's also a hybrid environment. Hold on. I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. Let me get to where I am. Sorry, guys. I just turned around in the office and saw that I was on. I've got multiple monitors, so I've got one that's not in presentation mode, one that's in presentation mode, and the one that's working is actually in the presentation mode. So, getting back to what I was saying, from a hybrid standpoint, not only do we have to understand how to manage a Microsoft Azure public cloud, there's also workloads that businesses are putting in AWS. They're putting them in Google. So it's a hybrid environment, and businesses are struggling today. Nearly 60% of businesses are struggling to be able to provide cloud experts. And if you look at Center, we hold several different gold partnerships with Microsoft from the expertise. So we have the expertise within our organization to be able to partner with you to provide you with that cloud experts from Microsoft. And we hold all the different certifications. So we're a gold cloud platform, gold cloud productivity, gold small and mid-market cloud solutions. So what do we stay on top of so that you don't have to stay on top of? There's 4 things that we really focus on to stay on top of it. So as an extension of your team, a lot of you guys that know Center that's on this call, our goal is to be an extension of your team. Our goal is to be able to provide you the people, process, and technology. And we stay on top of 4 things when it comes to Microsoft Azure's public cloud that gives you the ability to be able to leverage it as a differentiator for your business. The first thing is everything we do is secure by default. So one of the most hacks that happen within the public cloud, it happens because of misconfigurations in the environment, how you set it up. So when we work with you and we set it up, it's secure by default. We really define what are those standards. And again, like I said, from an on-prem environment, it's very different. It's a very different setup than it is within the cloud. One of the examples is from a networking standpoint, it's no longer setting up a one-to-one NAT. There's different ways to set up networking if that server needs to be on the internet, public access. How do you put a firewall in front of it? And really, how do you set that up by default? We also provide you insightful reporting. The insightful reporting that we're looking to provide to you guys, like I said, it's about visibility, but how do we maximize every dollar that you're providing? How do we understand the environment that's built? How is it just not line items where it says, hey, you have this OS, you have this much storage with this server, but how do we provide you full visibility so that we can architect and be able to utilize the IT environment that's been built? We focus on business uptime, and business uptime is not if you remember why people are moving to the cloud, it's reliability. It's the fact that everything is redundant within the Microsoft Azure cloud. But how do we make sure that your workloads are actually up and running? Because that's the most important thing to the business. It's, if the data center is down, that's a big deal. But you don't hear, when you look at Microsoft's uptime and their uptime are, your 5 nines, that's what your business owners are hearing. They're hearing that Microsoft's going to be able to provide those 5 nines. What they don't understand is, and what's important to them, is that their workloads are always up and running. And then the last thing, of course, again, we're providing you guys certified expertise. Through all of these things, and especially from an insightful reporting standpoint, we can give you guys, and guys, this isn't a number or a stat that we actually just pulled off the internet. This is actually a customer case study that you guys can pull off our website. But through optimization, through best practices, through how we set up and design the environment, we can help you save up to 30%, 37% cost savings on your Microsoft Azure. Again, really looking at maximizing the dollars that you invest in there. And through the way we set up the environment and different security packages that we're able to offer to you guys, we're able to improve your cloud security. And I'll talk to you about that here in a minute. So what do we do versus what Microsoft does? If you go to Microsoft Direct, you can spin up an Azure tenant. You can turn around, you can call them for support. From a management perspective, you can log into the Azure tenant, you can spin up VMs, you can add processors, you can add storage, whether that storage is high speed storage or archive storage. You can do all those things within the tenant. You can also set up monitoring. So from a monitoring standpoint, you can set it up so that you get alerts. You also, with that, have the ability to do detailed and summarized billing within the tools itself. It's there and you have access to it. You also have cost management tools. So a lot of times in these tools, you're able to log in and actually see, hey, if I migrated this workload to this instance and I made it look like this, you could actually save 25%. What you don't have with Microsoft and what Center provides you is really that expertise in how to use all those things. How do we stay on top of it? Again, IT administrators, your days are busy. I've never seen an IT administrator that's not busy within an organization. It just doesn't exist. And so how do you stay on top of this? How do you make sure that it's set up? And when changes happen within the Microsoft Cloud and different functionality gets introduced, from a roadmap, how do you take advantage of that and stay on top of that? That's something that, combined with Center, choosing Center as a partner with your cloud, that's what we help you guys do. We help you guys stay on top of this so that we're providing you technical support. We're also combining with you to be able to provide that operational management. We're helping you set up the monitoring and keeping it tuned so that when you get alerts, it's actionable alerts that we can actually respond to. We're providing the summarized reporting, not only the detailed reporting, but also summarized reporting. And we're helping you with the expertise from a cost management. So it's not just showing you a stat that says, hey, you can save 25%, but how do we save 25%? And what's the plan to be able to get there? And what's the risk for the business? The other things that we're doing is to set up an ongoing mentorship. We're working with you because we understand your organization, we understand where you're going, and we're constantly optimizing your experience and really maximizing the advantages that the cloud provide to you. We provide rapid response support. How many of you guys have actually called Microsoft? And what happens when you call Microsoft? So you can get technical support. You sign up an Azure tenant, you can get technical support through Microsoft out of the gate. You call them up, and what they're going to go through is that typical process that all of us have been involved with, where they're going to try to understand what is the severity. So you're going to call in and you have the basic support, which is 8x5. You can actually upgrade to their advanced support, which will cost more money. It won't cost that much money, but it's still all based on an SLA. So you're going to call in and you're going to say, hey, my Azure environment's down. And the Microsoft dispatcher is going to say, okay, what's down? My CEO's down, right? My CEO is not able to access an application. It's going to come back and Microsoft's going to say, okay, that's not critical. I'll give you a call back in 24 hours. And what happens is you're sitting down and you're eating dinner with your family at 7 o'clock and they call you. and you miss that call. So you turn around and you call them back. Now the clock starts again and it's 24 hours. That's not feasible for a business, right? Your CEO's down. How do you match? Your priority is to be able to get that up and running. And we don't often we're not able to be able to be managed from an SLA standpoint. When something's down, it's in the cloud. Some of the things that you lose is the ability to be able to touch it. So what Center provides to you guys is rapid response from a support standpoint. You guys are able to pick up the phone, call into Center, and we're able to be able to help you resolve the problem. Again, making sure that that business uptime is always running, and not just from a data center perspective, from an IT workload standpoint. We're always providing you guys strategy, right? We're working with you guys on different, as Microsoft changes, we're keeping up with the expertise. We're providing you guys constant strategy so that we stay on top of it and enabling us to constantly be able to take advantage of the feature functionality that the Microsoft Azure public cloud provides to you. We're always optimizing it as well. And I'm going to talk to you in a minute about optimization, because I think optimization in the cloud is one of the most important things for you to be able to maximize your experience within a public cloud. And then we provide experts, again, secure by default, and we're committed to your success leveraging Microsoft Azure. So from a packages standpoint, what do you get from Center? And here's the things that we can provide to you guys. So you just going through Microsoft Direct and coming through Center, on the left here are 3 things that I provide to you as default. So as default, the ability to be able to work with you, I'll give you 3 things. Detailed billing reports. So I'll give you the detailed billing reports that you've always got today. And then I'll summarize. I'll actually work with you to be able to summarize those reports so that when your CFO asks you, where's our dollars being spent, you can actually have the ability to be able to show them line item by line item. And I'll show you guys this in a minute on where those dollars are being spent. The third thing that we do, which is unique, is we're providing you with technical documentation. Technical documentation on that environment, a Visio diagram of that environment that you have the ability to be able to look at. So part of the hardest problem with moving IT workloads to the cloud is you can't touch it anymore. You're not able to touch it. It's somewhere out there in the cloud. You know, a lot of you guys that are in Texas, it's going to be in San Antonio, but the ability to not be able to touch it, a lot of times we look at these reports, even if it's a detailed billing report or a summarized billing report, and we can't touch it. So Center provides you with those Visio diagrams. It's going to give you the ability to be able to look at it and say, oh, that's where that server is. That's what that looks like. A overall technical documentation that you can use not only to be able to provide that insightful reporting to the business, but also the ability to be able to troubleshoot things as well, giving you best practices. Are things misconfigured? The other things that we're able to provide to you guys is setup and management. How do we, we provide resource build outs. So build outs of VMs, build outs of networks, setting up a VPN tunnel between the Microsoft Azure cloud and a site that you have in North Carolina is very, very different than how we had to do it. So Center provides you the setup and management of the resource build outs, connectivity and network setups, configuration management, and again, secure by default on how we set that up. Provide you guys monitoring, 24/7 monitoring. The alerting aspect, we give you the ability to be able to log into a portal, to be able to see the monitoring and to be able to not just get the alerts, but the ability to be able to take action. How do we get proactive and make sure that this environment, that it's maximized? And monitoring is very different than the way it was before. So when you're on a pay-as-you-go, what happens from a cloud perspective on the pay-as-you-go? You minimize the amount of resources. It's pay as you go. So you're naturally going to minimize the amount of resources that you're given to these workloads. How do we proactively monitor, not just up and down from an application standpoint or a server standpoint, but actually how do we monitor SQL optimization? So how do we monitor SQL? How do we monitor the network? How do we monitor the storage so that you're getting maximum performance of the technology that you're putting your tools on? So that's one of the things that Center provides you, is that 24/7 monitoring, performance monitoring. It's not just your up and down. We provide, like I said to you guys, we provide the rapid response from a support perspective. So the ability to be able to provide you with expert engineers that have the ability to be able to help you make sure that these workloads are always running and that you maximize your business uptime. The last thing that we're able to provide to you guys is security, right? We have a package that we can provide to you, which is SOC-based services for the cloud. So one of the things that we can do from the SOC-based services is we leverage Palo Alto's Prism technology to be able to proactively detect misconfigurations. Like I said to you guys, the number one hack or the number one vulnerability that exists for all companies within the cloud is misconfiguration. So you guys look at a lot of the companies, a lot of the large companies that have had security compromises. You know, one being they had AWS S3 storage set up, and they opened that up to the world. We have the ability to be able to detect that and provide you rapid response. We're doing threat hunting when it comes to that, so it's true SOC-based service. It's machine learning along with actual human threat hunting, being proactive, not just waiting for known vulnerabilities to come through the systems, but actually doing threat hunting, being proactive to be able to contain those attacks. This is an example right here. This is a real world example, and this customer actually goes back to the 37% savings, but this is what their detailed invoice looked like. Through our services and working with them choosing Center Technologies as their partner, here's what we made it look like for them. So we gave them a summarized reporting. We worked with them to actually tag and categorize all the services that they have within their environment, and we gave them the ability to be able to see where all their spend is so they can make the best decision for their business. These tags can range from anything. So we've worked with different organizations that have development projects. They may want to allocate those costs to a different department. We have the ability to be able to work with you guys to do that. So actually what we do is we take the detailed reporting that we get, we categorize it, we tag it, and every month you're able to get a summarized reporting that you can provide to the business that your CFO can look at and understand where their dollars are going. So I showed you at the very beginning of this presentation, I showed you a slide that if you work with a partner, really what they're going to look at is they're going to look at, you know, you're going to sit down and you're going to say, hey, I want to move to the cloud. And what they're going to say is, okay, let's discover, let's design, let's strategize, and let's migrate. Center looks at this very, very different from a journey standpoint. And again, it's all about maximizing your advantage in the cloud. So the way that we look at it is assess the environment, migrate, secure, utilize, support, and then my favorite is optimize. Because like I said, you know, one of the biggest cons with moving to the cloud is it can get out of control. So a lot of you guys that have moved to the cloud already, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can be $3,000 spend one month, and then the next month it can be $80,000 spend, and you don't know what happened in between the $3,000 and the $8,000. So what does assess look like? Really, our cloud assessments that we run for organizations, if you want to move to the cloud, our cloud assessments that we provide to you really goes back to what a lot of the other partners look at, which is the three things, which is discover, design, strategy. We put that all in one section for you, and that's our cloud readiness assessment that we provide to you. We discover the technology requirements and business goals. We discover your environment and what it looks like if we move to the cloud. We also test the workloads. What makes sense to move to the cloud and what doesn't make sense to move to the cloud. So as you guys know, one of the biggest fears that all of us are going to have is just picking everything up and moving it to the cloud. Some of you guys that have AutoCAD applications, or you've got geoscience applications, some of those don't work well for the cloud. So choosing a partner that has the ability to be able to look at the environment from a hybrid standpoint. And again, when I talk about hybrid, it's not just on-prem, it's not just cloud. You have to factor in that there's going to be multiple cloud, because IT workloads are different in different clouds. And a lot of the applications that you guys are choosing could work differently in how they're certified with which cloud. So really coming in and really looking at your environment to be able to put a plan together that determines where does this workload make sense to run. Along with our assessment is the design phase. How do we design what that cloud environment's going to look like? How do we put a strategy in place and how we move forward? So that strategy, a lot of times, like I said, depending on the size of your environment, it's very hard to just pick up an environment and move into the cloud. So really what we focus on is really providing you guys with a strategy, and that strategy can be a long-term strategy, but how do we move your environment to the cloud? And then what is that migration roadmap for successful deployment and minimal risk? So when you look at that, how do you, part of our readiness assessment is how do you map out the dependency between workloads so that we know that when we move it to the cloud, we're going to minimize the business interruption, because that's our goal with moving to the cloud. Any migration's goal has got to be to minimize the disruption that we're looking at. Through our assessment, we look at those things to help minimize that. From a migration standpoint, again, it goes back, what moves to the cloud? How do we move it to the cloud? There's a lot of tools available to you guys that are going to move workloads to the cloud. So, we go through a rigorous process of, certifying technology and what is our standards within our environment to help you guys move those workloads to the cloud, and really how does that interact with on-prem. So part of our migration strategy that we're always going to work with you guys on is how does when I move this application or this IT workload to the cloud, how do the end users react within that application? How do they continue to gain access? How do some things may remain on-prem. So really through the migration, we're looking at it from a soup to nuts, the ability to be able to say, not move all your workloads to the cloud, but how to maximize your experience so that really putting that strategy in place so that you're leveraging the advantages that the cloud provides to you. From a security standpoint, I talked about it within the package. So we're looking at it as, assess migration. How do we secure it? So once those workloads are up there, how do we secure it and not just look at known vulnerabilities, but how do we actually get more proactive doing threat hunting, machine learning? How do we look at misconfigurations so that we can provide you with a secure environment? Not only doing that, how do we contain it? So you guys that use SOC-based services, one of the biggest challenge with SOC-based services is you get a flare. A flare goes up and says, hey, you have a problem. And again, you're eating dinner with your family at 7 o'clock, you go jump on the computer, it's 8 minutes too late, and now your entire environment is infected. So not only with center services, not only do we look at providing you with 24/7 monitoring, we also, when we see that actionable alert come in and we see a vulnerability happen, how do you contain it? So we take the step to contain it so that we have the ability from a containment to actually clean it and clean it the right way. And one of the things that Center does is we don't stop there. A lot of SOC providers will stop after you contain it, so you're going to have the responsibility to contain it, and then they stop and they say it's done. Center takes it a whole nother level forward, is we want to understand how that vulnerability happened. How did it happen, and how do we prevent it in the future? So we provide you with forensic investigation of how that vulnerability happened, and then we provide you with the consulting and with the actual remediation on how do we prevent it in the future. And some of that could be, a particular application that we're going to enable multi-factor authentication on. It could be as simple as, hey, we've got certain users that have passwords on the dark web. We need to make sure that user changes all of his passwords. So we go the full soup to nuts with not just identifying the alert and throwing you a flare. We're truly an extension of your team by containing the problem, investigating why it happened, and putting a plan together on how we fix it for the future, and then actually providing you that remediation so that we solve it, so that we're constantly moving your security posture, your security maturity forward. The next thing we do is help you utilize the Microsoft Azure public cloud environment that we move you guys into. So not only are we helping you guys set up your tenant, we're helping you support, we're helping you set up different workloads, establish different connectivity between your offices. We're also training you guys on how to utilize this. There's a million buttons that we have to manage in this on-prem environment. Gaining access to experts that are going to work with you as part of your team to help you train you guys in how to be able to continue to leverage all the capability that's up there from a cloud standpoint. And how do we stay on top of it when the cloud constantly changes? We continue to provide you guys an enterprise-grade infrastructure, scalable consumption needs, flexible cost consumption model, and you gain access to 24/7 by 365 expert cloud knowledge and support. So we're constantly working with you guys as an extension of your team, giving you the ability to be able to leverage Microsoft Azure as an extension of your data center infrastructure. Rapid response, we talked about it. The ability to be able to make sure that your business uptime is maximized. We give you rapid response. You call in, you talk to a live body, one that can help you guys with any support issue that you may have. You get access to cloud experts, rapid service recovery, and more importantly, root cause analysis on how it happened. So part of what Center wants to do is not just look at the problem, fix the problem, but actually take it a step further to be able to determine how did the problem happen and how do we resolve it in the future so that we can maximize that business uptime you have. Network connectivity troubleshooting, which is critical from a cloud standpoint. Like I said, setting up a VPN tunnel is not the same thing as setting up a VPN tunnel to one of your remote sites. A lot of times when you've got on-prem hardware and you're setting up network connectivity, we all buy Cisco, or we all buy Meraki, or we all buy HP, right? All of our gear is the same. Well, from a cloud perspective, that's not the way anymore, right? From a cloud perspective, there's different technologies that you're connecting on the other side. So how do you combine that and give the same management experience across the platforms? Also providing you backup and disaster recovery, and then virtual machine, database, and application support and management. So one of the most important things to really maximize your experience with the cloud is cloud optimization. Like I said, the cons that come with moving to the cloud gets out of control. But you have to constantly optimize the environment to really get the full advantage of it. So we're working with you, evaluating and strengthening your cost controls. We're looking at your applications and your workflow of applications. And is it better? Is there a better place to be able to run those different workloads, right? We're looking at your resources. And again, from a pay-as-you-go consumption model, we're looking at them so that you're maximizing your performance. And overall, we're minimizing cloud sprawl and really maximizing your cloud investment. So I will open it up for questions and answers.
Yeah, Chris, we did have a few questions come in, so let's address those first. And then if anyone has any other questions, feel free to use that chat box. The first question that I have, does migration support and mentoring include SharePoint Online?
Yeah. So really what we're talking about from what Center's providing you on the migration, the mentoring, and the expertise that we're going to provide to you is going to be on the Microsoft infrastructure, the VDIs or the remote desktops that you can get within that environment. From a SharePoint Online, we have a partner that we leverage to be able to help companies, take advantage of SharePoint Online, but Center is not doing that. One of the things that I believe is critical about SharePoint is you have to actually have a developer mindset when really utilizing all the benefits of SharePoint Online. So we can help you with a lot of things, but if it comes to customized development work of it, if it comes to things like leveraging Teams and SharePoint, combined, because a lot of what Teams is SharePoint, we can help you with that. But if it comes to development, any aspects of development on SharePoint Online, we would engage another partner. So we can help you. We just engage in a trusted partner to be able to help you with that.
Thanks, Chris. The next question I have is, what if we are not comfortable moving fully to the cloud? How would you best suggest a hybrid model for us?
So one of the things that I would say is that's the $1 million question, and that's the question that always pops up, right? We're not comfortable moving to the cloud, and there's several factors from a not being comfortable moving to the cloud. A, security. Everybody says, okay, my data is somewhere else, right? My data is somewhere else. B, the factor is going to be expertise. Right? How do you have the expertise to be able to keep that running? Again, we're used to managing VMware environments. We're used to logging in and physically touching tangible. We're used to logging in and physically touching storage. 99% of the environments that Center really sets up for customers is a hybrid environment. There is a lot of IT workloads that don't make sense to run in the cloud. We certainly have customers that run 100% of their business out of the cloud, but a lot of the older businesses, are not going to run 100% out of the cloud, and they may have applications. So some of the things that we do from a hybrid standpoint is we may have some applications that are running on-prem. We allow you to use Microsoft Azure as a second data center to really continue to give you that flexibility. And over time, as you introduce new applications to your business, that's when it starts making sense to move it to the cloud. So, again, most of the environments that we set up are going to be the hybrid, and really leveraging Center's experience with hybrid. How do we set up the network connectivity? And then from the applications that may remain on-prem, how do we protect that, right? How do we continue to back that up? How do we provide disaster recovery? And then the most important thing is, how do we have one platform that we're managing, right? With them being with a on-prem environment and a Microsoft Azure environment, which you want to take advantage of all the capabilities and flexibility and scale that you get with that infrastructure. with getting that, how do you manage it as one? How do you have the same security posture across both? How do you have, file collaboration across both, network connectivity across both? That's where we're really bringing you the expertise so that you can take advantage of all of the what I like to say goodies that come with the cloud.
We have a follow-up question on that, Chris. In a hybrid model, can I have my on-prem applications synced with the cloud for DR?
Yes, yes. So there are several different ways to do that. So in a hybrid environment, you can have applications that are synced within the cloud, some native through Microsoft, and some with third-party tools that we would be able to recommend to you guys, that in the event that the on-prem environment went down, maybe there's a power loss, or hey, maybe there's a pandemic. Hopefully we don't have another one of these again, but the ability to be able to spin those workloads up in the cloud and have users be able to access them. So there's a lot of native. So the way that Center approaches this is to really enable you guys to be able to use the native technologies that it can extend across both multiple data centers. So for example, Active Directory, right? How do we run, if we've got over 100 users, for logon times, for, different policies and security, we're going to want to have an on-prem Active Directory, but we're also going to want to leverage Active Directory within the cloud. There's also other security advantages that you get with running that, right? File server collaboration, we're able to do that. SQL, we're able to do that. So we're first going to look at the native technologies that we can expand across multiple data centers. And then there's also different replication and sync tools. And in fact, one of the migration tools that Center actually uses to help you move your IT workloads to the cloud is a sync tool. So when we come in and we do a cloud readiness assessment and we do all the discovery and we map out all the different dependencies, we're essentially putting a tool in there that we know that, if you move forward on that migration, we can actually sync those to the cloud and actually spin those workloads up and run. Does that make sense? It's hard, you guys, it's hard for me to stare at a computer and not actually look at somebody to be able to answer a question. So I apologize at that. I'm learning this virtual world. I'm an in-person guy.
Well, we just have one more question left. Last question is, what if we have to cancel? How do we pull out and get our data back?
Yeah, so if you have to cancel with Microsoft is what you're saying. Microsoft doesn't own your data. So if you have to cancel with Microsoft and you got to pull back from a workload standpoint, it's the ability. So two things. Microsoft doesn't own your data, so it is another migration strategy wherever you're going, whether you're going back on-prem or whether you're going to another cloud. And again, those tools that we can engage with you guys and utilize, they have the ability to go bi-directional, whether that's on-prem or the cloud. The other thing is choosing Center as a partner, right? What happens if you cancel choosing Center as a partner? Again, Center doesn't own your Microsoft tenant. So you want to choose a partner where you own your Microsoft tenant and you have the ability to partner with somebody that is truly providing you the value add that you deserve. I'm, like I said at the beginning of this presentation, I'm a big believer that every organization that is leveraging Microsoft Azure Cloud should be leveraging a partner to be able to extend their expertise, understand really what they're getting, and get, really get value out of the partner that they're leveraging. The Center also doesn't own your data. Center doesn't own your Microsoft tenant. So it's simply, moving that tenant to another partner, or, if you pull out of Microsoft as a whole, it's migrating that data back. They don't own any of your data. I hope that answered your question. If not, you can book a meeting with us. We'll come in person and answer more.
Well, I believe that is it, Chris. We don't have any other questions coming in. But as Chris said, everyone, if you do have any follow-up questions or if you think of something later on, please feel free to reach out to your account executive and we can spend some more time. Or we can definitely follow up and just get some feedback from you on the webinar and see if you had any questions right then and there that we could answer for you. But other than that, I'd like to thank everybody for spending time with us and just learning more about Center and the Azure partnership. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. This will also be, this is recorded and we will be sharing the link. We'll be posting it on our YouTube page. So if you want to refer back to it, it'll be posted tomorrow. All right,
Thank you, guys.
everybody have a great day.
Enjoyed the time, guys. Appreciate it.